Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, because it is noon now. Good afternoon, everyone. And we're so excited that you are joining us for this session. And I am going to just go ahead and share my screen. And there it is. So we're excited to have you join us for our session. We've been doing a lot of work on Indicator 14, and we're happy to share with you some of our work today. My name is Chiara Perry, and I'm the Assistant Director and the lead for the California Collaborative for Impactful Pathways. And I've had the wonderful honor to work with Dr. Matthew Love this year as a professional expert as we work on our toolkit to share across the state of California to support districts with improving Indicator 14.
Hi, everyone. I'm Matt Love. Happy to be here with Chiara presenting.
Just to give you a little background, CCIP, the California Collaborative for Impactful Pathways, is a grant-funded program. We work in partnership with the California Department of Ed and the California Collaborative for Educational Excellence to curate resources, share resources, and provide free professional learning across the state of California to educators. We're so excited about all the work we're doing that focuses on including students with disabilities to make sure that they can thrive socially, academically, and emotionally within all learning environments. And the ultimate goal of IDEA is that students with disabilities have successful post-secondary outcomes. So today we're going to share with you a few resources to help with that. And I'm going to
And
turn the
as,
microphone over to Matt.
and as we get ready to dive into our presentation, whenever and wherever we can, we like to practice what we preach. And to the greatest extent possible in our digital conference format, we'd like to universally design your experience. So we want to provide options for self-regulation, perception, and your action and expression as you communicate here. So as we've shared, there are accessibility options, closed captioning options. If you need some support getting those set up, please drop it in the chat, and one of us will make sure that you have those accessibility options. As Shara is going to share here in a bit, there's also other tools for you to interact with us, to engage with the materials that we are presenting, and to gain access to some of the toolkit, Indicator 14 materials and resources that we've developed. So if there's anything we can do to help you participate meaningfully in our presentation, please let us know.
Thank you. So we believe in making sure that we provide multiple means of engagement. So we do have a resource folder for you. You can type in the bit.ly. We're going to drop it in the chat for you. Raquel has joined us and she will work with us to drop links in the chat for you today. Also, we have a Padlet for questions, and throughout the sessions, our session moderators will let us know when questions are asked. Feel free to put questions in the chat if you prefer that, but we do have resources, and if you just click on the link that's in the chat, you'll get access to a folder that we've curated for you that has today's presentation. You have some data collection tools and some other resources that we will go over today. But one thing we would like for you to click on is the home base. If you click on your home base, you will see that there are some links at the top. And the one we would love for you to click on and sign in because we want to know who's in the room today. And also, we will use this tool to send and share resources with you that are provided by CCIP in regards to upcoming trainings on our toolkit and communities of practice and other wonderful resources. If you don't want to receive an email, you don't have to put your email, but we would still like for you to put your name because we want to see what impact we're having across the state. So we really would appreciate you signing into this session for today. Also, on the home base, you'll see tools and links for you all in one location. We have some agenda items.
Get them exited, and then we think, okay, great, those kids are through, they're exited, they're on to their adult life. But Indicator 14 is just as crucial because it helps us evaluate how we're doing. We'll talk about what Indicator 14 is in detail, but it's really a post-secondary measure, um, that districts are held accountable to. And we'll give you our why. Why is that important for us? Then we'll give you 10 essential actions to collect solid indicator 14 data and then to use that data to improve what you're doing in school. So even though it is a post-secondary outcome measure, we'll give you 10 essential actions that you can follow to help you improve what you're doing in school. Hopefully give some time for questions and answers, link you to a feedback survey, hopefully find ways for you to keep in touch with us and our project as it moves forward, and then link you to the resources that we have currently available and maybe give you a coming soon preview of all the great things that we're developing moving forward.
Okay. So what is indicator 14? Indicator 14 is a federal performance indicator under IDEA Part B that measures the post-school outcomes of youth with IEPs in the year after they leave high school. So once a student with a disability exits the public school system, in 1 year, schools have to reach out to them to find out what they're doing. And so states must report the percentage of youth who are enrolled in higher education, competitively employed, or enrolled in other post-secondary education, training, or in other employment. We're going to share with you some tools that we have that kind of show you like what that looks like and what they're doing. But that is in a nutshell what indicator 14 is. Every school has to report out to CalPADS, the state data system, what students are doing 1 year after they graduate. And so this is the ultimate test of the individuals with the Education Act is that schools have adequately prepared students with disabilities to live meaningful lives after they graduate from high school. Okay. Why is this indicator important? Same thing. Families and students are contacted, but also it gives the school the opportunity to check in on students if they're not engaged, right? So throughout this process today, we'll talk a little bit about the data that helps determine if students' education has truly equipped them for college or careers, or if they're able to live independently. But also, the ultimate goal, as I said before, is have our school systems set students with disabilities up for success and that they're able and to live independently or work part-time or full-time or attend a college or a vocational school to learn a trade. And so we want to make sure that our students are engaged. And if they're not, what are some things we can do to support them in that process? That is why this indicator is so important.
So we understand that there is so much data day to day that we're kind of, inundated with, and there are so many outcomes that we track while students are in school. But to Shara's point, I think indicator 14 is the ultimate indicator of success. Is what we prepared students effective at helping them enter adult and post-school life effectively? And there's always room to grow in that. So, to help sort of ascertain where you're at and help you grow in achieving positive post school outcomes for students, we're going to give you 10 essential actions that you can follow in the year that in the year following students exiting school, and then how you can use those actions and the data generated to improve some of those transition post school preparation services that you're providing to students.
So gathering and reporting indicator 14 data. So this is our little visual on our road to successful post-secondary outcomes. And as a former director, it was hard keeping up with and managing all the kids that are in school. And so you may ask, well, why am I supposed to keep up with the kids that have already graduated? Right. And so some of our students will exit us, but not go to college. They may not go to a vocational school. They may be undecided. They may need a little more support. So it's so important that we stay in contact with those students. And we're going to kind of give you some strategies along our road to successful post-secondary outcomes today. And so we've curated a little table that talks about the senior year. It's so important to initiate this process when you still have the students, right? Begin identifying the students that will be exiting, where they're going, and making sure you have accurate contact information. Sharing this information about post-secondary survey so they are aware of that. We're going to go a little bit into that. We're going to talk about their exit IEP and how some transition activities can help you with that data collection piece. We're going to talk about creating a database so you can kind of keep up with the students, and a person can be responsible for kind of reviewing and looking at how students are responding and the best ways to respond to students. We are going to share with you some survey preparation things such as flyer templates, some letters, some email communication, some different things, and also the importance of communicating with parents in their home languages. We also want to talk about outreach that begins in the summer or the fall, and how that continuous contact will continue on. We will then talk about follow-up rounds and data entry into CalPads and your IEP systems, and also submission of your certification, analyzing and reflecting your data. And reaching out to students isn't sometimes you do just once. There should be multiple opportunities to connect with students and engage with students who are difficult to contact. And then a reflective piece on what you can improve and what you can do differently.
So
So
let's think.
essential action number one. Okay, go ahead,
So
Matt.
thinking about essential action number one, the easiest thing to do is identifying who is it that we need to contact. So it's making sure that in that senior year, we identify the students that we're going to need to contact in that following year of them exiting. So this includes all students with IEPs exiting school or aging out. And then you want to coordinate with district staff to ensure alignment with state indicator 14 criteria that we'll cover. We'll give you specific steps of that criteria that you want to follow. And it is all about, understanding who are the students who may need additional support to stay connected, thinking about those kiddos when you're sending prior written notice home from the time they're 14 to the time they exit school. Maybe it takes them a little bit longer to get those things back. Those are the students that you might need to keep in touch with. Students who might be moving frequently during high school, students who have plans to say, I'm going to go to a post secondary education program that's out of state. That's happened to me before. When I worked in Nevada, a student said, hey, I got accepted into a program at Ohio State University. I knew it might be really difficult to contact someone that lives half the country away. So, thinking about students who might need additional support, and then thinking about the different ways that you can keep in touch with them. And Shara has some really cool examples that she can show you as, to how to do that.
So here are some examples of some tools that we've curated that you'll have access to. All of these tools were created in Canva. So there are links to templates that you can actually go on and use and make your own, add your own district graphic. But the first one with the little owl is a cute little postcard. During the senior exit IEP, the case managers can share these with the students. They can complete them. You could decide that you maybe want to create for your district a Google form, and students can complete this information that can be dumped into an Excel table. But this was just a cute little tool where all students can kind of complete this, and you could have these little cards where you're making sure that when you're reaching out, or when you're creating your database, or when you're sending out your automated phone calls, or you're doing your kind of social media blast, you can find some of these students and send them a private message just to see where they are and how to get in touch with them. The card has like their name, their address, phone number. If they're on social media, they can put their names or their social media handles, an emergency contact. If you can't reach me, who's my parent, guardian, caregiver that you can contact? And if they have siblings within your system, sometimes you can't get in touch with the students. They may change phone numbers. So if they have siblings within your district, that is another way you can kind of keep in contact with them and find out where their siblings are. Or if they have a best friend or relative that works within your school system as well. So we just provided you some different examples of postcards that you could easily edit. And you can see you can go in and put your address and your contact information. And in conversations with some of the districts that we interviewed, we are really recommending that you start to use a bit.ly and a QR code. So that way, if you text it to students, you can text them the bit.ly. If you post it on social media, that in your message, you actually put the bit.ly in the message so they can click on it. It's kind of hard if you're reading a social media blast and it has a QR code. You can't click on the QR code always in the image. So put in that bit.ly in the message. So we recommend that in some of your communications because students use their little cell phones for everything now. So this would make communication easy. The next essential action 2 is analyzing your data. We came up with 10 key data entry must do areas in order to help you with your indicator 14 data. Making sure that you have accurate data such as contact information, making sure that students have aged out is very important. If you have survey information, making sure it's accurate and complete. If someone's checking that, making sure that your coding is consistent with CalPads because some districts use Cyrus, some districts use SACE, and both of them have different um, forms within their system for you to enter. So that's so important for the person entering that information that to have the codes and to make sure they're entering that information correctly. And that for each response it needs to remain consistent throughout their data reporting. And if they have questions, to make sure they reach out to us or to reach out to their SELPA directors or to CDE with any questions they have in regards to their CalPads reporting to make sure that they enter their data in a timely fashion. There are cutoff dates to enter this information, and there is an opportunity to go back and do revisions, but there are dates. And in our toolkit, we have the calendar, and you can find the calendar with all of the CalPADS dates for end of year 4 is for indicator 14 reporting is also included in our toolkit. Data validation is very important. Regularly validating your data entry to make sure that there are no discrepancies and errors. Generally, there's one person entering all of this data, making sure that someone is going behind and kind of checking this data for accuracy or to answer questions and just to review it, just to make sure it's correct. Trend analysis. Are there certain students that you are able to contact, or are students responding in a certain way? Do more students respond to text? Are you able to really contact students on social media? What is working better? It varies from year to year and it varies from school district to school district. We also want to make sure that when you look at any type of student data or any surveys that you do, that you disaggregate that data. Is one population responding more? Is there something differently you can do for specific populations? Are there specific genders, race, ethnicities, or students with certain disabilities are responding more than others? And kind of have a thought tank or think tank with other district administrators or other people doing the same work. Um, Making sure that you look at the state targets is very important. The state targets for indicator 14 change each year. And within our toolkit, we have a table that shows you how those percentages change and making sure that you are meeting the target or exceeding the target is very important. As a state, California is not doing well on indicator 14. And so CDE assigned us this task to try to do some training with districts on how we can improve indicator 14 as a state. This is very important for our students with disabilities and making sure that they are engaged and living meaningful lives. Um, Sometimes you may want to use charts or meet with a team. This is not required, but it's always good to kind of analyze your data and see what's working and what's not working, but also communicating with other people on what's working and what's not working. And then regular reporting is important. And then just making sure, as we work with districts, we always talk about continuous improvement, understanding what you're doing, why you're doing it, looking at data, and coming up with a plan and revisiting that plan to make sure it's working, right? So that's important. Our next one is we've kind of shared with you some things about historical data and how to disaggregate data. And in some of those tools we've shared with you, System Improvement Leads has created this historical data protocol, which is really cool. They go over all of the special education indicators, and this is a free tool. It's included in the folder, and it goes in, it's 5 pages, but it goes over all of the different um, special special education indicators that they look at. It's sort of like a Yelp report card for special education with districts. And so as you see, all of them are listed. You don't have to use this one, and they do have questions, but I wanted to share this free resource. In communication with a district, special ed director was looking for something, and she worked on a SIM report, and so this tool was very helpful. We've curated a analyzing under 14 indicator data, and we have collaborated with System Improvement Leads to come up with our tool for you to use. And so this is a tool that you could just go in, you can make a copy, and you can enter your data for the past like 4 or 5 years, and you can kind of analyze that data to see how your students are performing. This is a really neat tool. You can feel free to add to it. And we've even added some reflection questions for you. And then in our toolkit, we have some deep dive questions if there are some things that you're looking for to help you with your SIM plan, or if you're in differentiated assistance and you're trying to do better things to improve the outcomes of your students with disabilities. Are there any questions about the data tools that we've discussed so far? We've also curated a data inventory worksheet so you can kind of track like which students you're contacting, the mode of communication, if they're responding, if you need to follow up with them, where the students are. This is a free tool. You can download it. You can make changes to it as you see fit, but this is also a resource included in your folder and in the toolkit.
So, hopefully, one of the biggest things you're taking away so far is that you don't need to reinvent the wheel. There's going to be comprehensive and robust supports out there to help you collect, analyze, and make decisions based on your data. To Shara's point, you don't want a single data point driving your decision making. You want robust, disaggregated, and visualized data to help you make those decisions.
The next essential tool is making a communication plan or calendar. As you begin to prepare to send messages out to your students to collect this data, or to connect with students who you haven't been able to connect with, it's so important that you have a plan and making sure that there's sort of like a calendar. In some of the interviews with some of the districts and some of the people who report this data, a person shared with me, well, some people start as early as October. And so the regulations state that you should start 1 year after the student has graduated. So a student with a disability may start a program or a job in August, and by October they may not be working, or they may not be participating in the program. We would recommend that you wait a little later to contact them as far as what they're doing, but a check-in, an email, a text, a social media kind of check-in would be great. But as you develop your communication plan, it's so essential that you kind of think about how you're going to communicate with students and what that looks like. Determining who will make the contact, where you will keep this information, who will follow up. Is there a primary person? Is there a secondary person? What is the process or the order that you want to start out? Do you want to start out with a robocall? Are you sending postcards, right? To make sure you have the right address, or a mass text message. So to make sure that you have the right phone number. Coming up with a plan for how you're going to communicate is really important. And thinking about some of the transitions that happen naturally in school is important as well. So we've shared some documents with you in the folder. We created a year at a glance. And as you see, it has who can do this communication, what time of year is great to do this information, case managers, site administrators, district office administrators, how we all can work together to help with um, gathering data for indicator 14. We also came up with a sample template of a communication plan. And when we roll out our toolkit, we'll have an example of a communication plan for districts to look at, and you'll be able to curate your own if you need to help you with collecting this important information.
So, looking at essential action four, I think about my father-in-law, who was an architect for many years, always tells me it's better to measure twice and cut once. So, our first three essential actions were all about really preparing and developing your system to be successful. Essential action four is when we get to dive in and actually make our initial outreach to students. So, in that initial outreach, um, you want to contact students and families before the exit to build buy-in, right? Hopefully, you've interacted with these students for several years as they were in high school. You explain what indicator 14 and why it matters. So you let students know, hey, I know you're done with us, but we're not done with you. We want to make sure that we've done everything we can to help you be successful in your adult life. And you sharing your input, your activities, how school went for you, how post school life is going for you is going to help us help other students in the future. And then, as Shara shared with our postcards and sort of our preschool exit stuff, you want to make sure that you get multiple types of contact information, right? A phone number, an email, social media, um, alternate adult or caregiver, emergency contacts, anyone that you can get in touch with. Because believe it or not, a lot of students when they turn 18, when they exit school, they turn 21, 22, um, they start to develop, new identities, new contact information. So phone numbers might stay the same, but their email might change. If I think about the email that I had when I was 13, 14, and 15, I wasn't going to be applying for jobs with those. So I had to get a more professional email. So even helping them establish a new Gmail, a new email account, right, as they're exiting school. Um, Social media, luckily wasn't as big when I was 13, 14, 15, exiting school. But again, a lot of students make the decision to get rid of or change their social media. So making sure that you've got multiple and reliable forms of contacts, and then offer students a way to update that contact information after they exit. A lot of students do like to have, some communication, some contact with their school, um, mentors that they can reach back out to. Hopefully you serve as a reference for some of the jobs that students are applying to once they exit school, right? So thinking about multiple ways to stay in touch and multiple ways, that students can update their information with you. And then we can look at some of the communication examples that we have here. Again, our biggest goal is, ensuring that you don't have to reinvent the wheel. And we've got a couple documents that you can use to reach out to students, right? I know I'm a person that if I have to write an email that first time, I agonize over it. Like, does this email say what I want it to say? Does it communicate what I want to communicate? And I will give a shout out and as many props to Shara as I can for, eliminating some of that cognitive load for me. So there you can see um, some of those communication examples that we have.
And Raquel helped with this also because she informed me that if you click on this little M, I think if your district is Gmail, Raquel, please correct me if I'm wrong. This will automatically pop up in your email, which that was new for me because I had never seen that before. We're in Outlook district, a county office, we don't use Gmail, but I think that's correct, right, Raquel?
Yes, that
Yeah,
is.
confirmation. Yeah.
Yes.
So really cool. And so these examples are also in your folder as well. Our next essential action 5 talks about analyzing data, right? And so, just like Matthew shared, right, things like the email are part of the transition process, right? A lot of students use their school Gmail, making sure that they create a personal Gmail before they leave us is going to be important. Making sure that you have this information, hopefully the information cards they fill out, you can cross-reference that. Oh my goodness, I did not mean for that to pop up. Something popped up on my screen. Making sure that you monitor deliverables. If emails are bouncing back, is someone trying to follow up to see if you can get a correct email or phone number? If you send an actual letter in the mail and it's returned, or a postcard, is someone following up with that, or are these things just put to the side and nothing happens with them? Creating a list and try alternative methods. If you have a postcard sent back, what are you going to do next? Are you going to try to find the student on social media? Are you going to look at their emergency contact? What will be that process? Um, Making sure that you are disaggregating early data by student groups and contact method. Looking at, do I have more students that were in my resource programs following up or responding? You know, are my students that were in my special day classes, am I not able to contact them? What else can I do to get these students to respond or to find out what they're doing? You know, and then adjust in real time to address gaps. If you have a new contact information or emails, updating that in your database to make sure it's current information is so important in your data analysis. And then we just shared the forms that you look at for your data analysis, just to analyze and update as you see fit. And then here's Essential Action 6.
Yeah, just building off of that, right? Using your formative data to make a decision. Is my communication plan working? Am I making a good faith effort to reach out to students? So seeing, here's the number of students that I have on my list. Here's the number that I've reached out to. Here's the number that I've successfully gotten in contact with. Keeping in mind that this formative data is just a quick update. It's not something that you want to report out on your indicator 14 because you want to wait to that full year later, but use it to revise your outreach plan. Is it working? See what's working the most. Phone calls, mail, social media, email. Which one do I want to bulk up? Which one do I want to spend more time on? And you can replace, modify, or just get rid of ineffective outreach methods, right? Most of the time, that might be standard mail, but sometimes standard mail actually gets you good, robust outreach as well. Reassign outreach tasks, right? We all only have so much bandwidth, but so making sure that we're using our time effectively. And then maximizing our free options, right? Mailing things out costs money. Email takes a little bit of time, but through the wonderful subscriptions and programs that we have at districts, LEAs, SELPAs, and county offices, those are traditionally free. So thinking about the best ways with the formative data you have to continue updating and making your communication plan more efficient and effective. So moving into essential action 7.
Thank you. The next thing we want to do is revisit your communication plan and calendar sort of mid-year or in the spring, making sure around halfway through this cycle, you take the time to review your communication plan and calendar. Are staff still following through on their parts, right? Has everybody done what they're supposed to do? Do you need to switch some things up? Are there parents that respond better to certain staff, right? Thinking about that, are there any missed windows because of changes in the school calendar due to events? How can you tag on to different things that are going on within the county? You know, our family empowerment centers locally. How can you reach out to families that way? How can you add things to your district office newsletter or website? Where can you get these free opportunities to kind of highlight this information? If you're a special ed director and you're going to some of your parent meetings, can the parent liaisons kind of communicate with parents and help with this? Can you go to a DLAC meeting and kind of talk to parents about how important it is to complete this Indicator 14 survey? Can you offer office hours to talk to parents and the adult students about this information? These are all opportunities that we can kind of capitalize on. I know it takes time and your schedules are busy. So how can we maximize the opportunities where we're engaging with families already and kind of gather this data? Set up tables at open house or back to school nights and see if you can kind of update your databases. These are all great opportunities.
And so I'm excited to share Essential Action 8 because I think it's the most fun and the most powerful thing you can do. It doesn't have a lot to do necessarily with Indicator 14 data collection, but I think it is a super powerful, culturally sustaining practice aligned thing that you can do. It's bringing in student panels, thinking about the power of narrative, right, as a culturally responsive and sustaining practice. Thinking about leveraging, the diverse experiences of your community and recent graduates. So what a student panel does is it invites recent graduates to share their experiences post-school exit. Thinking about this is my first year out. These are things that I wish I would have known. These are things that you can do now to set yourself up most for success. Um, I would love to think that I was the most motivating, engaging, and mentor that I could have been to my students. But those near peer experiences are more powerful than anything I think we as adults can do. Seeing students from the same community, from their school, talk about what does that first year after school look like. It just gives so much experience. It gives so much connection to students that are going through what students currently in high school are going to do. It's also a great way to maintain contact with some of those students that you're going to need to collect that next year of data on. And then just consider sharing out, what did we find in this student panel? We're talking a lot about quantitative data on outcomes, but having students share their experience gives us that robust qualitative data that we might not get otherwise, right? Knowing what are the top 5 things that students wish they had known, what are the top 5 things that help them be most successful. We might not capture that on a survey or in our traditional indicator 14 data collection, but when students share that out, those are things that we can track. Those are systems that we can build up. Maybe I'm personally thinking, hey, this, careers class that I'm teaching is super effective. I think it's going to be great. But then I've got all of my students on the panel saying, I didn't use a lot of that information. Can be really powerful to help, you make decisions at the school level. So think about inviting some students back. It can be students from 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 years post exit, but thinking about those students that can provide that near peer experience for students currently on your caseload, I think could be super powerful.
And if you have a SIM plan as a special director, if you're sharing that out with your board or in an LCAP meeting where they're sharing it out, it's so powerful to share pictures or videos of these students with disabilities talking about their experience, what they had in your system, and what they're doing in their lives after they leave your system. These are just some things that are very powerful. In an interview with the district, they shared that they invited some of the former previous year's graduates back, and they that is when they completed the survey when they came in, and they invited them back to eat lunch with their friends that were still in high school, and so they were able to connect them. They were able to have discussions, talk about what they were doing, how things were going, and also complete the survey. So this was just something that we wanted to make sure that we highlighted and shared, and then we curated a postcard that you can also download and update or create your own in Canva or any other tool you have. But we just thought that these were great ideas, and also that the students can also share recommendations with the upcoming graduates on, I wish I had done this differently. I wish I had a known this. And so this was just a cool opportunity to kind of highlight and bring the graduates back in with your current students. And so I've been a part of this process through an organization that I'm a member of, and it's so powerful because kids listen to each other. And so, and it's also a great opportunity to really see the fruits of your labor. Essential action number 9 is reaching out after 1 year. Making sure that you are informing students ahead of time when you're going to contact them, if you're going to send them the actual survey, Or if someone is going to interview them personally, it's so important that they kind of know that and communicate that out. Making sure that you are tracking the responses and updating your contact information when you reach with the students, even if they've relocated, kind of saying, have you moved, if they've moved out of the area or out of the state. And provide incentives, right? You can give them some type of swag or free lunch or an ice cream or something when they come. It's always nice. And then making sure that the support language access and alternative formats, making sure that, if the parents are hearing impaired or if they need English as a second language in the home, that you have translators that are assisting you with this process. So important. Right. And we also have curated some additional items for you. We have flyers, we have postcards that you can send out. And these also, we will try to get them translated into 2 other languages, but you also can get them translated on your within your district. But these are some examples that you can actually go in and edit and add your information and add a QR code or a bit.ly. We always recommend that you add those because right now that is the thing that we're all doing and it's working well. And so we recommend that you always include that in your mailings and your postings. And essential action number 10.
So it's a year later, you've collected your data, you've maintained contact with your students. What do you do now? Just what you've been doing all along, right? But instead of being at the formative stage, you're at the summative stage, ready to, review that year of data and plan for the next year. So think about what your final response rate was and outcome trends. You've given your good faith effort to reach as many students as possible. Our goal is 100% response rate, but we all know how difficult getting 100% of anything in any endeavor can be. So thinking about what our response rates are, what do we want to change for next year? How do we want to change outreach? But also looking at outcome trends, thinking about what our indicator 14 outcomes are, competitive and integrated employment, career and technical education, post-secondary education. What are the trends and understanding that one isn't necessarily better than the other, but what are areas that we want to focus on, right? If students are engaged in competitive and integrated employment, I'm happy with that. If my college numbers are down, it doesn't necessarily mean that I need to dive, headfirst into college preparation for all of my students because some of them might be in trade school. So understanding, what our outcome trends are, but also disaggregating by groups to identify where gaps might exist for subgroups. If I see students from certain ethnicities, certain socioeconomic statuses, certain backgrounds that are lagging across all indicators, that is something that I would definitely want to address and figure out what I can do. What can I do in school? How can I address that for future cohorts? Think about your outreach effectiveness. Again, thinking about we had phone calls, we had mail, we had email, we had social media campaigns. Which were most effective? And then plan improvements for next year, right? It's always that continuous improvement cycle that we want, both for outcomes. How can this data improve the services that we're providing while students are in school? And then how can we improve our data collection and analysis efforts once students have exited school? And then understanding if you don't mind advancing one slide, Shara. Understanding that all activities lead to the finish line. I know Shara probably has more on this, but I just want to reflect on a question that we got earlier where someone asked, hey, I'm in elementary school. Is this presentation appropriate for me? And every time I talk about school exit for students, I say this is appropriate for anyone that teaches pre-K through 12 plus, or even post-secondary education providers because all activities lead to the finish line. If we know how we're doing at school exit, we can try and improve everything that we're doing in the 12 plus grades that lead up to that. And we can communicate those things to families. If you have children, if you've had, children growing up, you know that as parents, as families, post school life planning kind of starts at birth. And for students with disabilities, that shouldn't change, right? We should keep all options open. As someone who's helped start inclusive post-secondary education programs at multiple sites in multiple states, we know that college is an option for any and all students. But if we want to make it inclusive and accessible for families, planning needs to start, you know, as soon as students enter school, right? We want to communicate those high expectations. But again, not all students go to college, so we can help students make that plan that is appropriate for them. Pre-K to 12 plus is what I want to talk about as it leads to the idea that all activities lead to the finish line. So that's sort of my why, and I'll pass it back to Shar to bring us home.
Thank you, Matt.
Mhm.
And what the question that was asked earlier, right? Sometimes you'll have siblings in your elementary classrooms that they may have an older sibling and they may not be engaged. And knowing how to get them in contact with the high school to find out what other resources are available. So in the resource section of this presentation, there are a ton of transition resources for you. Upcoming professional learning opportunities that are going on with links. We will be working collaboratively as grantees with the California Statewide System of Support. We're offering a free virtual conference this year. So there is a video you can watch, and if you can sign up if you want to receive information about this free conference, which I think is really great. All the grantees will be presenting in one conference. Um, the Santa Clara County Office of Ed Innovations Collaborative will be offering their annual conference in October. And there are some transition resources. The California Transition Alliance work very hard to curate this resource for families. It has lots of transition planning activities within it. And we're going to drop that link in the chat. And also, these are just some examples of different resources that are available. And it has starts K-8, different transition things that students can get started on. It's never too early to start transition planning for our students. And I just thought it was important to share these resources because the systems start to reach out to families if the students aren't engaged or they're not doing anything. Here are some different tools at your fingertips that you can share. And also, high quality IEPs are hosting their transition toolkit webinar communities of practice, and they have a ton of resources they've shared that I have included in this presentation as well that are very easy tools that you can use, all of them provided by high quality IEPs. And I had the opportunity to attend a person-centered planning training session. And for students with disabilities, this is so important. And it's never too soon to start planning what goes on with our students in elementary, middle, or high. And these are some great tools that you can look over. CCIP will be partnering with Embrace Abilities to also offer some additional trainings on person-centered planning. We're hoping during the 25-26 school year to support families and educators with knowing what's available so they can provide these resources to families. So we wanted to just make sure you have access to these resources. There's also the California Career Resource Center that has a ton of free things that I just found out about last week. They have a new mobile app. They have interest inventories. So if students aren't engaged, these are some resources that school teams can share with them to get them started in figuring out what they want to do or what would be the best careers for them. So I want to go back because I want you to know that I'm not requesting a gift, but feedback is a gift for us. And we're hoping that you will take the time to give us feedback on this session. Was this information good? Would you like more of something different? We always review our feedback and we appreciate this. This is a grant funded program and we just would love your feedback. And if you have any questions, I'm going to turn it back over to the moderator, and we appreciate you joining us today.